We'll pop open a cold one for this review, guys. I'm not alcoholic, so this will have to do. Ah! So we're looking at the Netflix exclusive Rebel Moon Part 2, once again directed by Zack Snyder, just like Part 1 was. It came out last December, I want to say, and it received some very lukewarm at best reactions. And I remember when Rebel Moon Part 1 came out, I didn't like it, I didn't hate it, I just felt kind of indifferent towards it. But I knew because you had Part 1 in the subtitle that there was going to be some sort of cliffhanger. Alas, there was. And it was all going to lead to this Part 2 right here, which is subtitled The Scargiver. A colony on the edge of the galaxy fights for survival against a tyrannical ruling force known as the Imperium. And no, to all my wrestling fans out there, Gunther is not a member of this Imperium. And they can only rely on the efforts of a small group of rebels who we saw band together in Part 1. Now, I think in terms of science fiction and originality, that's few and far between these days. So I commend these Rebel Moon movies, and I commend of Zack Snyder for at least trying and throwing it at the wall. And you can say what you want about Zack Snyder, man. Listen, there's some people out there who are avid fans of Zack Snyder. They call him like a messiah of the film industry. And then there's some that look down on all the cliches that they see in Zack Snyder movies, and they call him a pariah of the movie industry. No matter your viewpoints, messiah or pariah, anytime you see Zack Snyder's name on a film project like this, I'm at least interested to see what's going on. Because the movies that I like of his, I'm very entertained by. And I think Rebel Moon Part 1, albeit unremarkable, it had some semblance of an idea of where the story was going to go. And yeah, I'll just say this much, Rebel Moon Part 2 just didn't do a damn thing for me. So let's go ahead and start with, the small handful of positives that this movie has, I guess. The performers are doing their best. I think Sofia Boutella is a very talented actress, and she is doing everything she can with this material. It's also pretty cool seeing Francis from the first Deadpool movie, as well as Djimon Hounsou in this. I think I said Djimon Hounsou's name right. I really hope I did. And these are all really talented people. I think the action in this movie is pretty good for what we get. It's your typical Zack Snyder fare. Here's the thing with the action, though. It's about, the majority of this movie is all built around this gigantic action set piece. And that's really all you get. There's really nothing wrong with an action movie and a whole bunch of action. But I'd like to see an action movie with a little bit more substance than The Scargiver. This movie was a bunch of smoke and mirrors, a bunch of glitz and glamour, but no story or substance really to speak of. I'm sure there was story buried somewhere in there, unless I missed something. It felt like it had a beginning, middle, and end. But if you're gonna have a big gigantic war in this movie, at least have some sort of stakes that are prevalent. And oh my god, you want to talk about annoying Zack Snyder-isms? The slow motion. I'm not just talking about slow motion in the action sequences. I don't really have an issue with that. But it's more the mundane things in life that he tends to emphasize with slow motion. You know, like this. Like, if my whole video is that, how bad would it be? Like, these blokes are just hawking grain out of the ground, and Zack Snyder decides to put a bunch of slow motion in there. For what? At least in the Weird Al music video for Amish Paradise, that at least works. And the slow motion is there for comedic effect. We're supposed to take this totally seriously. Like, these people are living their lives, and this is kind of what's at stake for them. Like, I'm baffled. I'm baffled at these technical choices here. I mentioned that these action sequences had little to no substance. If it did have substance or some sort of stakes to it, we only really understand the stakes in a big, gigantic table scene where every character is just sitting around, and you go through each one individually, and you see a flashback sequence, and that's how you get their backstory. And you get their justification for being there. Well, number one, I feel like we should have gotten that in Rebel Moon Part 1. You know, when you're actually getting the band together and it actually gives you time to care about these people. So when you put it in this way, in the context of Rebel Moon Part 2, it feels very rushed. And it also makes it absolutely feel like, okay, this is an exposition dump, okay? Like, this is why you should care about these characters. Yeah, you need a heavy drink for this one. So with all that in mind, an overabundance of exposition, one big gigantic action set piece that doesn't really go anywhere, and goddamn an over-reliance of slow motion like only Zack Snyder can. In total, I would surmise that you get about, maybe about 69 minutes worth of a movie. Nice. But the movie runs 2 hours and 5 minutes. So that means that you get about an hour's worth of slow-mo. That's some Zack Goller math right there. And it's like, good God, this movie does not need to be this long. It was slow, it was boring, it was tedious, it didn't even really look that great. And I wanted to give this movie a chance because even though I felt kind of indifferent in part 1, like, it presented some good ideas and it left you with a decent enough cliffhanger where I was like, okay, I kind of want to see part 2. I kind of want to see where this story goes. So when you put part 1 and part 2 together as a whole, I just can't really recommend these movies anymore. Now that I see where the big picture has gone. It sucks me saying that because I like Zack Snyder movies usually. I'm one of those people that adores Man of Steel. I'm one of those people that has loads of fun watching 300 and quoting 300. Both Rebel Moon movies just completely dropped the ball for me. And that's a real bummer, you know, because the science fiction genre is really searching for the next big thing. The next big original thing. And I think Rebel Moon could have been that. But it's really nothing if you don't have the substance or the capacity to care about the characters that are in there. I'm going to give Rebel Moon Part 2 a D. Absolutely would recommend skipping this. But heck, guys, this is all just one guy's opinion. If you guys like Rebel Moon, and that's all fine by me, you know, just all film is subjective, as all art is. But if you guys stumbled upon this channel for the first time, do consider subscribing today and tap on that thumbs up as well. If you guys want to talk all fun things in the cinematic world, all the new things in the movie world, this is the right place to be. And we got a lot of cool things to talk about as we kick off summer blockbuster season, so stay tuned. I can't wait to share my thoughts. I can't wait to hear all of your thoughts. Should be a rockin' fun time, guys. So with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.